What did you feel when you checked your bank account recently? Relief or that familiar anxiety? When your paycheck arrived, did you think, finally, only to wonder a week later, how did it go so fast? Have you ever calculated exactly how much you spend each month and where that money goes? If these questions bother you, what I'm about to share today could change your life. There's a guy named Jason living in Chicago. He's 34 years old and works as a customer representative at an insurance company. He makes $58,000 a year. Not a bad salary. But Jason ends up with almost nothing left each month and doesn't understand why. Today, using Jason's story, I'll explain why the first $20,000 takes your life to another level. Chicago gets cold in the winter. The wind from Lake Michigan cuts right through you. But what really chilled Jason was the number he saw on his phone's banking app when he looked at the screen in the middle of the night. $523. 11 days until payday. Jason scrolled through his account activity. Rent was gone. Car payment was gone. Electricity and gas were gone. Phone bill was gone. Planet Fitness was gone. But Jason hadn't set foot in that gym in the last 6 months. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, all gone. The minimum credit card payment hadn't been taken yet, but it would be next week. When I looked at Jason's finances, that wasn't the first thing I saw. The first thing I saw were the expenses Jason wasn't even aware of. I call these invisible expenses. They're like water dripping from a faucet. Individually, they seem insignificant. But if the faucet keeps dripping, eventually, it fills the bucket. It's these invisible drips that sink most people. Jason's typical day goes like this. He stops at Starbucks on his way to work in the morning. A small amount, right? Lunch out. Again, seems reasonable. He comes home tired in the evening, doesn't want to cook, orders from DoorDash. Each one is small, each one seems innocent. But when these drops come together, they become a river. Jason's daily food expenses are about $50. When I convert that to a monthly figure, the picture becomes clear. Over $1,000 a month just for food. Add to that weekend entertainment, online shopping, and Uber rides. In total, these small expenses exceed $1,600 a month. That's about $20,000 a year. Jason is pouring the very money he wants to save into invisible expenses. When I look at Jason's monthly income and expenses, what I see is a sinking ship. A ship where more water is coming in than going out. Jason spends more than his monthly salary every month, and he covers this deficit with his credit card. The credit card looks like a lifesaver, but it's actually an anchor. It doesn't save you, it drags you down. With each use, it gets a little heavier, pulling you a little deeper. Jason's current credit card debt is $14,000. He makes the minimum payment every month. With this strategy, it will take him 20 years to pay off his debt. And the total amount he will pay is almost 3 times the amount he borrowed. Where does that extra money go? To the bank. While Jason pays interest, he is unknowingly building someone else's castle, not his own. If you also have a few $100s left in your account before payday, if you also ask yourself, where is the money going every month? Stay tuned to this channel, subscribe and like the video. Because what happened to Jason and how Jason got out of it could be a roadmap for you too. Now I need to explain something important to you. Why are the first $20,000 so critical? Where does this number come from? Think about it. If you lost your job, how many months could you manage? If your car broke down, could you cover the repair costs? If you had a sudden medical expense, could you pay it without resorting to your credit card? $20,000 is a buffer that covers 4 months of expenses for most people. This money is a shield against the stones life throws at you. With this shield, the stones may hurt you, but they won't knock you down. Without this shield, the first stone will knock you down, and getting back up becomes harder each time. But the importance of $20,000 isn't just practical. The real importance lies in the psychological transformation. Scientists have studied the brains of people experiencing financial stress. The result is surprising. People experiencing money stress temporarily show lower cognitive capacity. It's as if part of the brain is constantly working in the background, constantly thinking about money, constantly worrying. This affects everything else. Decision-making becomes difficult. Focusing becomes difficult. Creativity decreases. Every night, while Jason checks his bank account and stresses, part of his brain is held captive. It is not free. The thought of money is a cage, and Jason is inside that cage. But when he saves $20,000, the cage opens. The brain is no longer in survival mode. It switches to growth mode. The question is no longer, how do I survive, but how do I grow? One night, Jason noticed this cage. He was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. He was 34 years old. He had been in the same city for 5 years, in the same job for 5 years, in the same cycle for 5 years, and he asked himself a question: where will I be in 5 years? In 10 years? The answer was painful. In the same cage. Maybe a smaller cage. That night, Jason made a decision. He would start breaking out of the cage. The first step was simple. For 1 month, he would write down every single expense. Every coffee, every taxi ride, every online purchase. He wouldn't change anything. He would just write it down. Because you can't fight your enemy without knowing who it is. You can't fight invisible expenses until they become visible. When he added up the numbers at the end of the month, he was shocked. He was spending more than his salary and hadn't even realized it. Those invisible drops had long since overflowed the bucket. Here, I need to explain how compound interest works. Because Jason's salvation and his downfall lie in this concept. Compound interest is like a snowball. It starts small, but grows as it rolls. But this snowball can roll in 2 directions. It either rolls for you or against you. If you're in debt, the snowball is rolling toward you. It grows a little bigger every month, gaining speed each month. Jason's credit card debt is such a snowball. You make the minimum payment, but the snowball doesn't shrink because interest adds new snow every month. But if you're investing, the snowball rolls in your favor. It grows a little bigger every year. It gets a little stronger every year. $20,000 is the point where this snowball reaches a critical mass. It's now a snowball big enough to grow on its own. A $1,000 snowball is negligible, but a $20,000 snowball is now a force. The long-term growth of $20,000 may surprise you. Even if you don't touch it, it doubles in 10 years, it quadruples in 20 years, it exceeds 10 times its value in 30 years. If you add to it regularly, these figures reach astronomical proportions. It makes a difference of hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars in retirement. That's why the first $20,000 is critical. This money is the threshold where the snowball starts rolling on its own. I explained this to Jason, and we developed his strategy. In the second month, he made small changes. Not radical, but sustainable changes. Because radical changes usually don't last, like people who go on a diet and give up after a week. Jason was going to run a marathon, not a sprint. He started making coffee at home. He started bringing lunch from home a few days a week. He cut back on DoorDash. He canceled his unused gym membership. He canceled one of his 3 streaming services. Each one is a small step, but small steps add up to long journeys. Jason started saving around $600 a month. No major lifestyle changes. He still eats out once a week. He still meets up with friends, but every purchase is now a conscious decision. In the third month, I had Jason start applying the 48-hour rule. This rule is simple but effective. Wait 48 hours before buying anything over $50. Add it to your cart, but don't buy it. If you still want it 2 days later and it fits your budget, then buy it. Why does this rule work? Because when the brain wants something, it releases excitement hormones. At that moment, you can't think rationally. You just want it. Like a child. I want it now. I want it immediately. But after 48 hours, that child calms down. Logic kicks in. And most of the time, you realize you don't want that thing anymore. When Jason applied this rule, he noticed something interesting. He was giving up on buying the vast majority of the things he added to his Amazon cart after 2 days. What he wanted so badly at that moment seemed unnecessary after 48 hours. Impulsive shopping is the sneakiest type of invisible spending. It's not planned, it's sudden. It's not logical, it's emotional. And its overall impact is enormous. Do you fall into this trap too? You see something, you want it immediately, you buy it immediately. Then you come home, it sits there unopened. Maybe you never use it. In the 4th month, Jason started building a mini emergency fund. The first goal is $1,000. This $1,000 is a safety cushion, a cushion that will catch you when you fall. Why start with an emergency fund? Why not start investing right away? Because you can't build a house without a foundation. If you start investing without an emergency fund, the first unexpected expense will force you to liquidate that investment. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. You'll stay in the same place. The emergency fund is the foundation of the house. Lay the foundation first, then build the walls. Jason reached $1,000 in a few months. Then he aimed for $5,000. By the end of the 7th month, Jason had $5,000 untouchable in a separate account. For the first time in his life, he had a foundation. A small foundation, but a solid one. I need to talk about the system here. Because to understand why Jason is in this situation, you have to understand the system. Think of an ocean. Jason is a fish trying to swim in this ocean, but the current is constantly flowing in the opposite direction. No matter how hard Jason swims, the current pulls him back. What is this current? Consumer culture, advertising, social pressure, credit offers, installment campaigns. Banks, credit card companies, stores, they all want the same thing, for you to spend. Because your spending is their income. Your debt is their profit. Do you know what happened when Jason saved $5,000? He got a new credit card offer from the bank. The limit was raised, special privileges were offered. An email came from the car dealership saying it was time for an upgrade. A message came from the electronics store saying the new phone was available with no installments. The system doesn't want Jason to save. It wants him to spend. A customer who saves is a bad customer. A customer who spends is a good customer. Swimming against this current is difficult. But it's not impossible. When you recognize the current, you learn to swim against it. Buffett's rule. Look at the total cost, not the monthly payment. Always look at the total cost. Because the system always shows you the monthly payment. It says, only for this many months. But when you add up all those onlys, you get huge numbers. Jason reached $5,000 in the 12th month. His emergency fund was complete. Now it was time to face the enemy. The biggest enemy, credit card debt. Jason had 2 debts, credit card and car loan. Which one should he fight first? The answer is clear. The most dangerous enemy. That is, the debt with the highest interest rate. Credit cards are like vampires. They suck your blood every night. The faster you kill them, the less blood you lose. Car loans are tamer creatures. They're still dangerous, but not as urgent as vampires. Jason started putting his savings toward his credit card debt instead of his emergency fund. Instead of the minimum payment, he's making the maximum payment he can. Every extra dollar is a stake driven into the vampire's heart. Under normal circumstances, it would take 20 years to pay off this debt. With Jason's strategy, it will be paid off in 4 years. And the difference is tens of thousands of dollars. Those tens of thousands of dollars will no longer go to the bank. They will stay in Jason's pocket. They will be added to Jason's snowball. In the 18th month, Jason reached a critical threshold. His credit card debt had been reduced by almost half, and he still had $5,000 in his emergency fund. At this point, Jason felt something. The weight on his chest, that invisible burden he had been carrying, had lightened. Jason used to feel like he was walking on a tightrope. Below was the abyss, no balance pole in his hand. He could fall at any moment. Any unexpected expense could throw him off balance. But now the tightrope had widened. It was no longer a tightrope, but a bridge. It had railings. The risk of falling was still there, but it had diminished greatly. This sense of security is priceless. Money isn't just money. Money is sleeping peacefully at night. Money is being able to say no to the boss. Money is not fearing tomorrow. The 24th month, 2 years later, Jason's credit card debt was zero. Zero. The vampire was dead. Jason opened his banking app that day, and his eyes welled up when he saw zero. 2 years ago, he felt hopeless looking at the same app. Now he felt triumphant. Credit card debt zero. $5,000 in an emergency fund, and the extra money left in his pocket each month no longer goes to anyone. Now the question was, what to do with this money? Jason thought about focusing on a car loan, but then he realized something. A car loan is a low-interest creature. Not a vampire, more like a domesticated dog. It can bite, but it won't kill. Instead of paying off the low-interest debt quickly, it made more sense to put that money into investments, because the return on investment would be greater than the cost of the low-interest debt. The difference would add to Jason's snowball. But this strategy only works for low-interest debt. It doesn't make sense to invest while the vampire is alive. The vampire must die first. Jason continued to pay off his car loan with regular installments. He started transferring his monthly savings to his investment account, a simple, low-cost index fund. No complex strategies, no individual stock selection, just investing in the market as a whole. Time and patience. The 36th month. 3 years later, Jason is 37 years old. There's $20,000 in the emergency fund. Yes, 20,000. Jason started with 5,000 and slowly built it up to 20,000. And when he reached that 20,000, something happened. A voice came from within, a very powerful voice, like a siren's call, alluring and dangerous. Jason, you've been tightening your belt for 3 years. Relax a little now. Change that car. You deserve it. Take a vacation. You deserve it. Get that new phone. You deserve it. Do you recognize that voice? I call it the 20,000 curse. Most people listen to that siren, and the ship hits the rocks. But Jason heard the siren and covered his ears, because he understood who was behind the siren. That siren wasn't Jason's own voice. It was the voice of advertising. It was the voice of filtered lives on Instagram. It was the voice of the "you only live once" culture. It was the voice of banks, credit card companies, car dealerships. They all wanted the same thing, for Jason to spend that 20,000, because Jason's spending is their profit. Jason made the 20,000 his floor, the base, the ground. He decided he would never fall below that amount. 20,000 was no longer spending money. 20,000 was the foundation of freedom. Everything would be built on that foundation. Buffett's rule. The first $20,000 is not a reward, it's a foundation. If you don't spend the foundation, you build on it. If you spend the foundation, you spend your life trying to lay a foundation. Jason internalized this. $20,000 is a test, and most people fail this test. They see money and they spend it, they reward themselves, and they're back to square one. But those who pass the test change the rules of the game. Now the money starts working for them. The snowball rolls in their direction. Month 48. 4 years later, Jason is 38 years old. $20,000 in the emergency fund, untouched, like sacred ground. Over $30,000 in the investment account. Car loan paid off. Total debt, 0. Net worth, over $50,000, positive. What was Jason's net worth 4 years ago? Negative. His debts exceeded his assets, around minus 30,000. At the bottom of a pit, in 4 years, Jason covered a distance of $80,000, from the bottom of the pit to the top of the hill. Same salary, same city, same job. The only difference? Small daily decisions. Controlling the drops, killing the vampire, plugging his ears to the siren. And it's not just about money. Jason is a different person now. He's out of the cage. Free. He doesn't feel that old pressure every morning on his way to work. Jason used to carry an invisible chain to work, a debt chain. Now the chain is broken. Last month, when his boss made an unreasonable demand, Jason said no. He couldn't say no before, because he was afraid of losing his job. Now he's not afraid. He has a $20,000 cushion. He can manage for 4 months. He can find another job. A friend of Jason's is starting a startup and offered Jason a partnership. Jason couldn't even consider this before. He couldn't take the risk. Now he can consider it, because even if he loses, he can survive. These are options. This is freedom. This is the real power of money. Money isn't the things you buy. Money is the options you buy. Now let me summarize what Jason did. These are things you can do too. Step 1. Write down every expense for 1 month. Don't change anything. Just write it down. Count the drops. You can't control what you don't see. Step 2. Identify invisible expenses. Coffee, eating out, subscriptions, impulse purchases. Find the drops, tighten the faucet. Step 3. Make small, sustainable changes. Don't cut everything out. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You can save a few $100s a month without compromising too much on your quality of life. Step 4. Apply the 48-hour rule. Wait 48 hours before any purchase over $50. Wait for the child to calm down. Wait for reason to kick in. Step 5. Create a mini emergency fund. Start with $1,000, then $5,000. Lay the foundation. This money is only for real emergencies. Step 6. Kill the vampire. Focus on your highest interest debt. Pay the maximum, not the minimum. Every extra dollar is a stake through the vampire's heart. Step 7. Floor $20,000. Spend it when you reach it. Don't listen to the siren. Move it to a separate account. Make it sacred ground. Never touch it. Step 8. Roll the snowball. Use simple investment tools. Index fund, low cost, long term. Don't get into complex strategies. Time and patience. Step 9. Automate it. Set up automatic transfers on payday. If you don't see the money, you're less likely to spend it. Protect yourself from yourself. Now let's look to the future. The road ahead for Jason. Jason is currently 38 years old. If he continues with the same discipline, what happens if he invests regularly for 20 years until he's 58? The snowball keeps rolling. It grows a little more each year. After 20 years, Jason's portfolio will reach hundreds of thousands of dollars. If he continues until he's 65, he could exceed $700,000 in retirement, maybe more. This is possible with the same salary, the same job, just small decisions. By controlling the drops, by killing the vampire, by tuning out the siren. A man who started with $523 at age 34, filled with despair, could end up with financial freedom by 65. That's the magic of compound interest. That's the power of the first $20,000. That's the long-term impact of small decisions. Where are you in this story? Are you where Jason was 4 years ago? Are you at the bottom of the pit? Or have you started climbing? Have you saved your first $1,000? Maybe you've reached 20,000 but listened to the siren. That's okay. Every fall is an opportunity for a new rise. If you watch this video to the end, it means you want to change something. By the way, you can support us by subscribing to the channel and liking the video. You can share your thoughts on the topic of the next video in the comments. We read every comment. Also, share your own situation in the comments. Where are you right now? Jason opened his banking app last week, an old habit. But now he looks at it with his morning coffee, not with stress in the middle of the night. The numbers he saw on the screen made him smile. $20,000 was sitting in the promised land. The investment account continues to grow. Debt is zero. The chain is broken. The cage is open. Jason put down his phone and looked out the window. Spring was beginning in Chicago. Lake Michigan sparkled. The sun was rising on the horizon. Jason was no longer cold. No car can give you this feeling. No phone can give you this feeling. No vacation can give it. This is the first taste of financial freedom, and you can achieve this taste too. All it takes is to take the first step. Count the drops, kill the vampire, plug your ears to the siren, and start rolling the snowball. Congratulations, Jason. You have successfully completed Money School. See you in the next video.